जय हिंद दोस्तों, मैं हूं मेजर मोहम्मद अली शाह और आज अग्निपथ अग्निवीर के ऊपर बहुत चर्चा हो रही है। मेरा गला बैठा हुआ है। पिछले 3-4 दिन से लगातार 5 दिन हो गए ऑलमोस्ट, सुबह से लेकर रात तक इसी पे चर्चा हो रही है, टीवी चैनल्स पे, हर जगह पे। और आज इसी पे रोशनी डालने के लिए कि भाई अग्निपथ है क्या, अग्निवीर क्या करते हैं। आज जो आर्टिलरी सेंटर जहाँ पे रिक्रूट जो जवान जाते हैं ट्रेनिंग करने के लिए, जब वो भर्ती होते हैं, जिस रेजिमेंट से मैं हूँ आर्टिलरी से, वहाँ के आर्टिलरी सेंटर के कमांडेंट रह चुके हैं जनरल साहब, जब ब्रिगेडियर साहब थे। आज उनसे गुफ्तगू करते हैं और समझते हैं कि अग्निपथ है क्या आखिर, और अग्निवीर क्या, इनकी ट्रेनिंग के बारे में और उनके लाइफस्टाइल के बारे में आइए थोड़े समझने की कोशिश करते हैं। हमारे साथ हैं मेजर जनरल SVP सिंह साहब, जो किसी तारुफ के मोहताज नहीं है। आप सब ने इनको देखा हुआ है बड़े बड़े टीवी चैनल्स पे, अक्सर बहुत ही राष्ट्रीय सिक्योरिटी के मुद्दों पे अक्सर बात करते हैं। आप जाने पहचाने चेहरे हैं। आइए इनका खैर मकदम करते हैं। सर जय हिंद, थैंक यू वेरी मच सर, आपने वक्त निकाला सर अपने बिजी शेड्यूल से। सर आपका बहुत बहुत आभारी और शुक्रगुजार हूँ सर मैं।
Ali, Jai Hind, and may Bharat Desh flourish as we go along with this very important discussion.
सर ये बताइए,
And thank you very much for having me on this show.
सर शुक्रिया बहुत बहुत, थैंक यू फॉर टेकिंग योर टाइम सर। आई एम रियली honored and really grateful to you sir. Sir, I will come to the point straight away. So you have been artillery center commandant. In fact, the artillery center in Nasik under your command saw a lot of good work, a lot of positive changes, so much to the fact, on the lighter side, when the chief of the army staff, who incidentally also was a gunner, when he came, and the top brass of the army, all the army commanders, the top brass was there, the gunner fraternity especially. There is a photograph in your house, in your bedroom, in your drawing room, sorry, where in the bar, the center commandant is sitting and the chief and the army commander are standing. Am I right, sir?
Yeah, that's very true. I think you got a lovely memory to recall that. Well, that's very true. It's one of my treasures, I would say, of my service life, that photograph.
So because the chief had mentioned, if my intuition is right, that perhaps the center commander has done a great job, so this time he will sit and we as general will stand. So that's what happened. So that is the kind of, it's just, I'm trying to give an example, the kind of good work you actually did, sir. So now tell us about the training of a recruit who joins. We'll talk about Agnipath, Agniveer after we understand about the training. So tell me about the training of a normal recruit, a Jawan who comes in.
You see, artillery, as it will happen in all arms and services, there are also trades specific to that particular arm or service. So all training in the centers is divided into basic training and advanced training. And in some arms, like engineers, signals, it's also specific, further specialized training. So for each of them, the training, that is advanced training, and the specialized trade has got different duration. But what is common is a 6 months training, which we call the basic training, and that is common. After that, I can give you an example that the gunners, whom we call the topchis, who actually operate the gun, who are the gun detachments, they do 52 weeks training totally. So this is the way the training is done. In some trades, 47 weeks, 42 weeks, it's like that. So now the training, which is basic training, is basically to actually toughen you up. It's the physical training, it's your drill, and it's your battle physical efficiency test. And all this, and that apart, little more training which you keep doing. So basically, it's this 6 months training which turns a naive boy coming in to the training centers into still called recruit, but he starts believing in himself as a soldier because the routine sets him, the ball is set rolling for him. So that much I think in gravity I could tell you about the what the training centers do. But if you want me to get further, when they get into advanced training, and I'll again take the example of the gunner, then he is also, you see, I was the center commandant where we were turning out medium gunners, medium for the medium regiment, 130 millimeters, 155 millimeters. So the gunner, then he operates on the detachments. He also goes for firing. And the firing is as good as what you do in your units. This is called the course shooting in our case. And he also gets an opportunity to do that. So it is within that same recruit who's the gun detachment commander. Normally it's a havaldar in units. And there is a layer who fires. And the layer in units is the best gunner, But here a recruit is also doing that same job. And in during the course of this advanced training, he is well brushed up to measure up to such performance in the unit. It's a different thing that we treat him as a youngster, as a greenhorn, and perhaps think that he is not measuring up to that. But let me tell you, there are quite a few who do measure up. I'll give you another example of this training. When I took over as the commandant, Operational Parakram was on. In fact, I came on posting during the Operational Parakram. Artillery was having a deficiency of manpower, and center adopted to do the basic training and turn out recruits to the units to make up the manpower and be available in an operational environment with the proviso that they will do the advanced training in the unit. So it was on-the-job training for them at that time, and this is 2002. But I want to give you an example. When I took over, within a fortnight I visited, and I went to the technical assistant to see their training, and the training regiment CO, when I saw the command post exercise was on, so I turned around and asked him, how long have they been training on this? And you'll be surprised, you're a gunner, and the environment which watches this, that he told me today is the 7th day. And they were operating palm tops. It didn't appear to me that he was as raw as that. But then that is the uptake level. Well, my generation and earlier would have grown up with a system of repetitive training. And 21 years back, I learned that the requirement of such repetitive training which existed with us had decreased. In today's world, when I have to compare with further automation, further advancement in technology, the brain and the brawn, if they are compared, leads me on to one conclusion, that the period of training in the centers can be reduced. But how much is not quantifiable by me at this stage. It is for those who are working or who are in the designations for them to carry out research and come out with it. Mind you, even at that time, the Army Commander Training Command, who also happened to be a gunner, Lieutenant General Shantanu Chaudhary, he visited the center. He was quite fresh from a visit to America and France. And he came out with this, that we must decrease the duration of our training. So, these are all very dynamic things. So you asked me to share my experience as a center commandant, and I'm applying myself primarily to the fact, since I'm weighed in with the subject of discussion is Agnipath and Agniveers, and what we can do in the centers. The recruit trainings which we did was reduced for the basic training to 3 months as against 6 months. And we had very good results. The survey said, the Director General had ordered a survey.
So when was this? From 6 months to 3 months, the training?
This was started in January 2002 because Operation Parakram had been ordered around about 17th December, and the W had come. So we were to undertake this training. But let me tell you, this training was not restricted to the daytime training. The night training was a daily affair. Uh, my team at the center was very conscious of the fact that we had to turn out the best material in a scenario which was like a war scenario. We were operationally deployed for the first time after 71 war with a W having come. So we were very conscious about that. And I took the opportunity as the center commandant to visit a few brigades, and then I went to units to identify those recruits whom we had sent as to how they were operating or performing in their respective trades in the unit. So that gave me confidence. The units gave me confidence that they are training them, and I felt that we have been able to churn out those recruits with basic training who were fit enough to fall in line with the unit. Mind you, a medium gunner, he has to pick up that shell, which is much heavier. And so his gut muscles have to be very strong. And that is where the physical training, the basic training comes into play.
Right. So, did you find any compromise or any difference in the quality of a person who was trained for 6 months, whether we a person who was trained for 3 months? Both, of course, I believe they had to meet up the same parameters, the same standards, the same tests. So, did you find any visible difference in the training of the two, sir?
Uh, uh, Ali, to that I will answer. It is the survey survey report which was covered by the Director General Artillery in the artillery conference, and a enlarged artillery conference which took place when the chief was present. General Padman Aman, it happened to be his farewell visit to his alma mater also. Uh, the Director General covered the survey, and without taking any personal credit for that, because it was the team which performed, there was a lot of praise for an above average turnout of those recruits. Whether it is 3 months or whether it is 6 months, it is in the units that this young man, young whom we call recruit at the center, and a gunner when he joins the regiment, or a sepoy in the infantry, you know, uh, he is toughened up even more out there. So, if, for example, in the battle physical efficiency test, there'll be a lot which comes in excellent, outstanding. There'll be a lot which comes in very good timings, good, and there'll be a slot of satisfactory and poor. And I thought, okay, it was as much in order as it was in units. But what happened in units when a guy is satisfactory, he strains much harder. So he raises his level, he comes in good and very good. So and that is on. And in units also. And let me also tell you one thing. If the if the center trains its recruits well, they are good. And if the unit trains its men well, then the unit is good. And vice versa also stands true. So it's an ongoing thing. We as officers, you know, we keep doing our courses, and we discover our potential at each stage. And so we are in competition with ourselves and not with the person on my left or right in my unit, maybe an officer or anyone else. It is true uh, of our men also, whether we say personal blow, officer rank, JCOs. So that is the excellence of a unit. You see, certain units, they NCOs go for courses and they only come back with instructor grading, AXI, what you call Alpha X-ray India. And there are certain units, they don't have that. How is it? Obviously, the unit tradition, custom, and the training plays up. Same thing, some units throw up the officers, ordinary officers, they are thrown up and they perform excellent. Uh,
Sir.
let me give
So,
let me
what
give an
is
example.
the normal? course, supposing I'm a recruit and I have come in for training, a normal recruit. So how long is the duration of the training, sir?
As I mentioned to you, that the gunner does 52 weeks total training, basic and advanced training. And other trades have got different duration. And those I will not recall accurately, but I think it's 42 weeks and 47 weeks like that, which is there. So,
Right.
but gunner is being the prime factor for us. I
So
remember
basically,
distinctly it is
an
52.
operator, a technical assistant, a gunner, the different trades, they will have,
Yeah, they will have
obviously, they'll have
different
different
training.
trainings. But the basic would be the same, and thereafter they would be categorized that which trade you have chosen, a gunner or a driver or driver special
That's right.
or an
That's right.
operator. Right, sir.
Aptitudes and all are carried out, and yes, yes,
So now with the new
that's right.
Agnipath scheme coming in, and you see them training for 6 months at the center.
Okay.
So how do you think, how do you perceive? I will not ask you whether you are for it or you're not. I will not ask you that, sir. But I will ask you regarding the operational training. How do you perceive that a 6 months boy who's coming there, his trade would be demarcated, whether he's a
Okay.
driver special, a driver, DMT, operator, TA, or gunner? How do you think, and how much time do you think it will take for him to be for him to decide?
Okay, Ali, it's like this. There's a little a raw element in this scheme, and that is, it has not been defined. Okay, after the basic training and 4 years completion of this Agniveer, okay, what is his formal training? Whether he's going to revert to the training centers for a short course, you know, or it is only the unit which is going to take up the training of these individuals. That has, I think, that's in the gray zone, I would say, because I did make an inquiry in the environment. At the moment, I don't think the centers have received any formal directions or the syllabi to this effect. So it's a work in progress. But it's a very important factor. Take for example, I'll go beyond my own our own artillery. Let's take engineers. You see, 18 months and now 6 months basic training. So how do they fit in? So one of the thing is the aptitude which we just covered. The unit defines the aptitude of these boys, and then fits them into the respective trades. And those 3.5 years which is in the unit is a process of putting them on training, on the job training for that. And mind you, what I said, if he is a gunner, when he comes into the advanced uh, training, he does everything what a gun drill which we do, and then he goes for firing, and there's a collective firing, what we call force shooting. So it's a normal exercise which we have. At least in my time, we covered. There's a normal command post setup, and the firing and whole set of team is what is in our battery or in a regiment, and they do that post shooting. I mean, it's very pleasing to see these youngsters do that. But my memory is serving me 2 decades plus back on that. But their performance was very good. So I'm sure in one aspect that the units will have a greater responsibility, a greater load to train these Agniveers specific to their trade, and the senior lot will have their hands full on this. Uh, how well they adjust, because then it's going to be an ongoing cycle. It's going to be an ongoing cycle of these Agniveers. When the first 4 years, when the first team comes, the next year the next team will come. So you'll keep having a um, forward movement. Each year you will be receiving Agniveers. Then 4 years will complete. The next year, the next team of 4 years will complete. It will be like that. What causes me worry in this is that there will be a time, maybe in about 10 to 12 years, after the scheme is taken off. So maybe, 2033, 2034, we might have 50% of Agniveers and the senior lot. And as we go by, perhaps that ratio will also decrease. Now, let me tell you, the best equation to me may be 70-30 of experience and youth, or maybe 65-35. And at the worst, against the unit is 60-40.
Right.
We got to have a junior lot, and we got a middle level seniority among our men. The junior lot is not an NCO, and the middle senior lot is the NCOs, our Naiks, our Havaldars, our Havaldar majors. And the next senior lot in that is the Naib Subadars and the Subadars. So, we got a very good organization which befits command and control very well. Let me take an example of Russian army today. They don't have a system of JCOs or NCOs. So it's direct officer with his men. And that is one of the shortcomings in the army. Because a chain of command is the one which puts the unit together. So this sort of system, I have been thinking and I've been mentioning on some of the TV channels. What is of concern to me is the 25%. Taking it that Agniveer is going to be an irreversible scheme, and no modifications are in place at least in the first 4 years. So this is a matter of deep concern. Of course, there are other issues of the Agniveer scheme by itself, but since we are touching on the training aspect, and the training, leads you on to having a good unit. You see, I had a commanding officer who said, I don't need any of this bullshit. I'm using the word bullshit to be done in the unit. I just want a trained man. When I look into the eyes of the Jawan, when he's coming up for interview, he should stare back at me. When he stares back at me, he's telling me, I am a trained soldier of your regiment. And he's telling me in that I'm proud of my CO also. Now, I got that training from my commanding officer. And I think that's a very great thing. So training, develops a lot of bonds, because then you respect each other. If you're not good in your job, you're not respected anywhere. So this is the training which gives you operational fitness for war.
Very true.
And it's the training which makes the unit good in administration also. So that much, and it's a difficult question which you're putting me for. Another person will answer in a different manner, but this is what I can define my way of thinking: the importance of training, and this training of the advanced training and special leg training, which is there, is a big question mark in my mind. When I spoken earlier, I spoken about basic training. Yes, we can do it, even if it's 3 months, because the units, we have a battle physical efficiency test, the PT test, and we can be toughened up. And you know it how well we can toughen up. No leave till you get into good. Some units say you come in high average, only then you'll go on leave. I think those were excellent things. They were good sword of Damocles on a person, and they were sometimes applicable in some units to officers as well.
So, tell you one thing, like in an artillery regiment, there are 4 batteries. Each battery has 6 guns. Each gun, and okay, let's talk about, I'm giving an example of a field regiment right now. I'm talking about, just for example, for everyone to understand, to make it simpler. I'm not talking about 130 or 150, 155, the medium gun right now. Say a field gun. So there are 6 gunners on each gun. Now, which has to be really coordinated very well, which means number 1 of the gun, apart from the GPO, who's the boss, who's controlling all the 6 guns, and the GPO, which is who's ahead, who's passing the grid references to the GPO. But now, the individual guns, gun number 1 is the boss of that particular gun. So obviously, which means he has to be very well coordinated with his other rest 5 gunners on that gun. He has to be well rehearsed. They all have to be understanding him. Now, what happens if in a war situation, if you lose one of the gunners and of say 2 gunners of one particular gun, and now there are only 4 gunners remaining of or say 5 gunners remaining, one gunner is missing, and there is no situation to replace him at the moment. So the 5 gunners will make do of the work which 6 gunners do.
Well, I think you and I would have worked on that model because we are
No,
taught that.
that is for the
uh,
audience to understand, sir. Like, of course,
yeah,
we
yeah.
you and I
I'm
know.
coming. Yeah, that is, we have got a system of reduced detachment functioning. So if you have a team of 6 gunners on a gun as a detachment, and one or two could become casualties or injured, then dual functioning is the one which we are trained for to perform. Uh, that is it. So a loader might combine some other job. Loader might become also the gun detachment number one, supposing the gun detachment commander has been injured. So those drills are well defined, which we call reduced gun detachment drills, and we also train on that. It's not that it's going to happen in wartime. We are well trained when our training is done. Many times we are doing with a reduced detachment, so we are well prepared for that. And then our training is such. Uh, if the layer, who's the most important person after the gun detachment commander, whom we call the number one, we rotate our gunners in that detachment to also do the layer duties, including in our course shootings. And that's a must do. And I think most units, particularly all good units, will be doing that. Everyone will be doing that because, gunners, we got a very common standard. That's why our professional standards are very high. Our training standards are at a scale which are in commonality with each other. So only the qualitative aspect would vary, not the quantitative aspect to that. So, well, we can go through that. Same thing I'll say, you have spoken about gunners. We can do the same thing with our operators. We can do the same thing with our technical assistants. So, we have got that within that strength, what I should say, redundancy to perform and perform with the same operational efficiency as it was there. You see, we got those gun detachment numbers who also keep replenishing your artillery shells. So they're the one who combine duties to do this.
So I want to ask
Ali?
you in a very simple terms, sir, like, so that everyone understands, people who are not from the army background who are listening to us. Supposing we are doing a play and there are 6 characters in the play. So each character, the director has to coordinate for the rehearsals that, okay, 6 o'clock we will meet at Kamni Auditorium in Delhi at Mandi House. And each of them are doing a job or they are something on the other. So the director is like, where you guys, you haven't landed up, and he's now finally they land up there. Then they do their yoga, meditation, they start the rehearsal on stage. If one actor is missing, there's a problem. Somebody has to proxy for him. Now, this I've given this example to correlate with, for example, so that everyone understands, for a gun. Now there are 6 gunners. What happens that a gunner is not there? Be it either he's become a battle casualty, or he's been posted out, or gone on TV, or he's shifted out. Because from the angle that I am seeing it as, sir, so I am a short service officer myself, and I believe that a short service stint is a very, very good stint. But now, until yesterday, perhaps I wasn't being able to see a lot, which last 2 days I have educated myself a bit more, perhaps, with my limited knowledge and my limited experience in the army. What I perception I had 2 days back, now interacting with veterans like you, my understanding has developed slightly further. So now I want to ask you, what happens to an Agniveer who comes for a limited period of time, is trained on a gun, and then goes home? Do you think it will affect the operational ability of firing a field gun or a medium gun for that matter?
No, Ali, it's a cyclic thing. The first year you got a Agniveer, and they're going to come in packets. It's not going to be that there's going to be a mass entry of these Agniveers in the unit in each year. So the 75% who go out, you got the next batch which has come in. The first batch, 25% who get retained, goes into the second year. Starts fresh, isn't it? In the unit, there will be Agniveer first 4 years package, but that doesn't mean that you're going to wait for the next 4 years for the next Agniveer package to come. It will come in the second year in the unit itself, but his will start. So that I would say that inherent reserve is being created, that each year you will be getting the Agniveer intake in units. So the guy has gone out after 4 years, all right, but there'll be a replenishment, I would say, which is taking place.
So basically, you mean to say it may not affect the operational ability of firing a gun when a gunner is not there, part of the gun detachment, sir?
You see, I am assuming that the first batch of Agniveers which come, we say 4 years, but I am assuming that it is not that after 4 years you're going to get the next batch. That also requires little clarity. I'm assuming that when the first batch has come for 4 years training in 2022, in 2023 also certain Agniveers will be coming. So it's a cyclic training which will be on. So from there, your inherent reserve is available to you. But as far as operational efficiency is concerned, you see, as I mentioned, we need that middle piece. The middle piece, men who are NCOs, Naiks, Havaldars, Lance Havaldars. We need them in a unit. And when I say middle piece service, that means 8 to about 15 years, 17 years. Different units and different regiments have got different promotional avenues available to them. Somewhere that's delayed, somewhere it's early. So I would say about 17, 18, 19 years is the one where these men get to wear a star on their shoulders. So that's what I mean. So operational efficiency part of it is also reflected on that. Yes, those 25% who are selected, now they become the permanent part of the unit, though they start afresh with as first termers, I would say. The year one of service will be counted, though actually they are in the 5th year of their service. Year one is for the purpose of their pensionable service and naturally the pay also. So those are the ones 5th year. So then when the second packet comes up, they go into 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th year, and so they are also picking up. And but it's going to take him time to become an NCO, because actually he may be in 12th year of service, but in real time he'll be counted 8th year of his service for purpose of promotions and all. I take it like that. So
Sure.
operational efficiency for these 25%, I think they would have merged with the unit uh, fine and proper. And why not?
So there's been a lot of opposition from the veterans in the sense that they have not really, in the heart of hearts, they are not very convinced about the whole launch of Agnipath and the Agniveers coming in. According to you, sir, in your perception, what could be the reason for their concern about not being very happy with this new scheme being launched, sir?
Well, I think it's a very, very genuine concern, because this launch of Agni scheme has been an earth-shaking movement in the in the life of this nation, because it is the military which is the backbone of the nation. It's the military which is the cutting edge to the national security of a nation. And to change anything without a major debate, without a deep consultation, both vertical and horizontal, is fraught with a lot of problems. And when it was launched, one had the privilege of being briefed. It appeared to be at that moment uh, that it is possible. But as one has analyzed it, I find that the shortcomings far exceed any advantages. Uh, the foremost why the veterans are worked is it's disturbed the very fabric of a unit, of a Paltan. And I don't want to repeat those words of Naam Namak Nishan because now they become much of a common thing. But that is the main thing of a unit. There's no doubt about it.
So please help me understand. Maybe with my limited knowledge, I don't get it right. Actually, a lot of veterans have spoken about the operational efficiency, about the combat efficiency, or about the regimentation, or about the Naam Namak Nishan. That 4 years is too less for a person to identify with his Paltan and to live up to the regimentation and for the Naam Namak Nishan. So I did 5 years in the army. I associate myself as a gunner because once a gunner, always a gunner. Once a soldier, always a soldier. So I associate myself throughout. In fact, you can see I'm wearing a gunner's cap right now. I'm wearing a gunner's cravat right now. So it is, and from my heart, I am a gunner. Even though I had a stint with the paramilitary, the Assam Rifles, but even the Assam Rifles, I was known as my parent unit is artillery. So how can how are the veterans saying, which could be true? I'm not contesting that at all. I just want to understand that the feeling of regimentation and that Naam Namak Nishan would not be there for a person who's served for such a less time, sir.
See, the first and foremost thing is the factor of 75% who are going to be wasted out. After having done 4 years, he is wasted out to the army, to the military, and he is expected to be in the CV street. So we are not touching that point. But when he's there with you, he is living with a sword of Damocles on his head. He does not know what his future is like. And when you join the army, maybe an officer down to a Jawan, you live with a great sense of security. And what is that sense of security? That I am going to get my pay, perks, pension. I am going to get my medical facilities. And there are a lot of schemes to be looked after, to be looking after me in case of my disabilities, or even if I have laid down my lives, my family is catered for. Now, that's a very big motivation to those who are already in the unit as permanent cadre, and that is the first factor towards operational efficiency of performance and also to esprit de corps and camaraderie. Look at these 75% which is going to go out. Will he be performing his duty to the fullest in the unit, or he'll also be looking forward to doing some self-learning and self-advancement exercises within own self? After all, what I understand again is that they are expected to be also doing online learning, what we may say correspondence, or such learning, which the schemes are making available. Again, it's a gray area, whether it is going to be done in their 4 year service or it's post 4 year service. But yes, one thing is there that class 12 is being catered for, I take it, with their unit itself. So when you say regimentation and operational efficiency and worry of the veterans, this is one major factor to my mind which affects the minds of all of us. Second is about the regimentation factor itself. It is very, very dear to the infantry. They are bearing the names of the Rajput Regiment, the Maratha Light Infantry, the Gurkha Rifles, the Sikh Regiment, the likes. Now, those are very dear, and each unit, each regiment has got a war cry, which is the greatest rallying point on a battlefield. and you cry that out loud in all places, whether you're winning a sports competition, whether you're a Sainik Smillan. So those are the motivating factors. And then the units are living with a glittering history of the past, 100 years, 200 years. Rajput, Sikh, Marathas, Chhatrapati Shivaji ki Jai, like that. So now, where all that goes in this regimentation, that is one factor. And I tell you, I disagree with those who say it's the British legacy. No, it is not. If it was done, maybe it was their own selfish purpose. But as we grew along in the last 75 years of our history of our independent country, look how much of a rallying factor it has been. Sara Ghari to the Sikh regiment today stands up. Those 21 men. There's a saga of military history in the world stands out. All given that highest award, which was equivalent to the First, Second World War Victoria Cross. Now, so that is another factor. In this itself, you see, when you make it all India, all class, from which pocket are the men going to come? Is it going to be taken by one chunk, by one state, by one zone of the country? Or are we going to have a mix? When we are calling all India, all caste, then should we not have a percentage each state-wise for a proper integration? Supposing from North India, we have got the maximum entry, 70% because it's all India, all class. Where are the percentages? Have you identified? Have you mentioned that? So that's a very important thing. Look, our country is functioning, all India, all class. But you look at our union cabinet. Don't you have representations from each state? And then each state you're even going in for caste-wise and religion-wise representation or not? But we are Indians first. But we are doing that. Why are we doing that? Because we want to take the whole country along together, that we have a representation everywhere. So we are trying to play around with the military on this. It's very dear to infantry. It's very dear to the armored corps. And let me tell you, it's very dear to the artillery. We have got single class units also. My 10 Field Regiment was a fixed class regiment. When I joined until 92, 93, 94, it was a Sikh battery, a Ahir battery, and a Brahmin battery. And there were number of units like that. They became all India, all class. Now we have got entries from everywhere. The unit is done well, but we can't have imbalance if we want to see the nation serving the armed forces. I can't have a southern zone of the country, southern states, has got a little lesser representation than the northern, or east or west, vice versa. So regimentation has to be thought out very clearly. And traditions are built of the units on the regimentation. And that should not be played with. It adds to the moral and qualitative operational efficiency of a unit, that camaraderie, that we grow up, the men also grow up with a buddy system, If you're in the trench or in the gun pit together, one gets injured, he will tend on him. And he will not leave him. Even if the man is dying, he will carry him on his shoulder and do his best for his survival. That is buddy system. And true test is in the war. But India is not on war, on the conventional war. We are in a state of proxy war for the last 30 years plus. It is equally applicable there. Today, our young officer, when he gets a hit, the men rush to him. And when the man has got injured, the officer rushes to him. Kargil war is replete with such examples. Our counterinsurgency operations in the J&K and Northeast are replete with such nations. So lot one can speak, and every one of us can speak on the operational efficiency, the camaraderie of units, how they are built. And we should not play with that.
Right. So you have really highlighted some very good aspects, and you've thrown some light on a lot of technical aspects which one had not, a youngster like me especially, had not thought of earlier. And there's a food for thought for a lot of youngsters like me, who are inexperienced, who may not be that educated with regard to a lot of strategies which you would be preview of. And sir, thank you very much for taking your time. So really grateful to you. You have really put things in perspective. So before we part, any message you would like to give to
Yeah.
the youth of the country, sir, who have the apprehensions or perhaps were not happy about this future?
Before the youth, I think I will dare to offer some suggestions to the government of the day. Uh, if it falls on the right ears, if it doesn't, I don't mind. But it is in good faith. We should be amenable to flexibility, and we find if the announced scheme has got shortcomings which they could not debate within earlier, and they have surfaced now in the eyes of the nation, in the eyes of the people, in the eyes of the youth. As a matured nation, we should have the courage to correct it, even to hold it in abeyance if it's required, and treat this as a pilot project, though it's too large a figure. But this is one message. Second, I would like to offer message to my brethren who are serving in the olive greens today. Okay, first and foremost, the message is the Chetwood model and search within. Okay, where you are done honors to the Chetwood model, or are we being blind? We have to search our own conscience
For viewers
and
who do
search
not
our own
know the
hearts.
Chetwood Credo, for viewers who do not know the Chetwood Credo, it is the safety, honor, welfare of your country comes first, always and every time. The honor, welfare, and comfort of the men you command comes next. Your own ease, comfort, and safety comes last, always and every time. This for everyone to understand what Sir was talking about, the Chetwood Credo. Yes, sir. Please, sir.
Yeah, well said, and I'm glad that you come out with it, because that's the thing uh, which is not only our motto, it's within us. And if I don't stand by it, well, I don't want a 1962 to be repeated. We must have the moral conviction to do it, and history will remember you how you stood up, and not what we wore, the ranks and stars on our shoulders. The last is the message which you asked me to give to the youth. Well, I'll just tell them, just get along. If it is Agniveer at this moment, get into it. And we hope the powers that be and the system which we have will come out with midterm corrections and much better schemes. But don't get disheartened. Not everyone who comes for recruitment gets recruited. Many of you, many of the young recruits, they come number of times, yet they don't make it. But then they go into other walk of life. So life offers you opportunity. It's a world of competition. You're in competition. And in that competitive spirit, do your best. The best will come out of you, and it will throw you up in better places. Yes, we say Janoon and Jaspa of the army. Many of you who had it in his heart, if you don't make it, it'll remain with you. But do the best wherever you are. And yeah, I look forward to this youth to be to be contributing to the nation, to strengthen this nation, putting all other, uh, what I should say, politics behind you, behind all of us. ये सब जो जुनून है, ये जज्बा फौज का है, ये सबके लिए है, सिविलियन सोसाइटी के लिए भी है. वो भी एक तरह का देशभक्त है, और वो देशभक्त अलग तरीके से देश की मजबूती को कंट्रीब्यूट करता है। हमारी जो कंट्रीब्यूशन है वो सबसे बेहतरीन है, क्योंकि खून देश के लिए अपनी जान देने के लिए सिर्फ मिलिट्री करती है, और इसलिए बाकी सब आराम से रात को सोते हैं और सुबह और दिन भर खाना पीना और ले सकते हैं और हंसते हैं बिकॉज ऑफ फौज। तो जो फौज में रहते हैं आपने बहुत ही महीन तरीके से काम करना है, और बाकी जो बाहर जाएंगे मैं उम्मीद करता हूँ कि आप वैसे ही कंट्रीब्यूट करेंगे और ज़िंदगी में काफ़ी तरक्की करेंगे। तो इतना कहते हुए मैं भी अली साहब को, मेजर अली साहब को, जो कि एक पेडिग्रीड गनर हैं, he is a pedigreed gunner, so he was trying to teach me something about the army which he also learned very early, and his 5 years is a misnomer in the army because he was in army before that also, and he continues to be in the army now, and he and me and the families, we are living every bit as army men. Thank you very much, Major Ali Muhammad Shah. I enjoyed being with you in this interview. I think we exceeded our time because you took me down the memory lane of 21 years back as Center Commandant, and I was trying to really scratch my brain to remember what I'm saying. Thank you very much, and we wish that our India becomes stronger India and it becomes a great power, and we progress well. It's a aim of each Indian, and with that, Jai Hind and Sarvatra Izzat Ho Akbal.
Thank you very much, sir. Really appreciate you taking your time. And it was truly an honor and a privilege and great learning for me. And I'm sure for as well as all our viewers who are watching you and who would be watching you in the due course. Thank you very much, sir. Jai Hind, sir.
Yes, Jai Hind. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.